Welcome to the Deep Dive, your go-to source for cutting through the noise and, well, getting straight to the actionable insights you actually need. We're here to give you that shortcut to being well-informed. Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into something pretty common for anyone in finance, especially dealing with accounts payable. You know the situation. You get an invoice from a vendor, say, for $1,000. Simple enough. You go to pay it. But then the payment you're actually applying, it's less than that 1,000. Maybe you're making a partial payment on purpose, or maybe something else happened. Yet our source talks about this specific but really common puzzle, like maybe your bank takes a fee for an international wire, or there's tax withheld overseas, so the vendor actually gets less than the invoice amount, right? And you need your books to reflect that accurately.
Or maybe you've just strategically decided to pay part of it now.
Right. Either way, it creates this this accounting riddle you've got to solve internally.
It really does.
So our mission today, pretty straightforward. We want to walk you through, step by step, how to handle these partial vendor payments correctly. Specifically in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, we want to make sure your financials stay accurate, keep things clear with your vendors, and honestly, just avoid those moments where you're scratching your head staring at spreadsheets.
Avoid the headaches.
Exactly. It's about getting back some time, right? Not getting bogged down in manual reconciliations.
That's a perfect setup. And what's fascinating here is just how big the ripple effects can be from these seemingly small things.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. It's not just about getting one number right on one day. If you don't handle this partial payment precisely, well, it can cause problems down the line.
Like what kind of problems?
Well, miscommunications with vendors, for one. They think you owe X, you think you owe Y. That creates friction, you know?
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that.
And internally, your AP ledger gets messy. That affects your cash flow forecasts, your reporting. It can even make the business look less healthy financially than it is. Wow, okay.
Yeah, historically, these partial payments, they could be real black holes, lots of manual journal entries, hard to audit. It wasn't clean.
So getting this right process-wise is, like, foundational.
Absolutely. It's about efficiency and financial integrity.
Okay, that really drives home why we need a specific way to do this, not just, like, fudging the numbers. It's about that clear audit trail, too, for compliance and all that.
Precisely.
So, all right, let's say I'm sitting there in Business Central. I got this payment. It's less than the invoice. Where do I even start? What's the, maybe the intuitive mistake someone might make?
Ah, good question. Because the intuitive thing, the thing you might just jump to, it's often wrong here.
Okay.
So you might think, oh, I'll just go find the original invoice and manually change the amount. Or maybe just create a payment line for the partial amount, but don't really link it properly.
Right, just record the cash out? Yeah, but that's the trap. Doing that, it leaves the original invoice maybe looking fully unpaid, or you have this sort of floating payment in the system that isn't attached to anything specific.
A recipe for confusion later on.
Total mess. You'll spend hours trying to reconcile it down the road. So, no, the right place to start, according to our source, is the payment journal in Business Central.
The payment journal. Okay. For listeners maybe not deep in BC every day,
Yeah.
what exactly is the payment journal? How should we think about it?
Good point. Think of the payment journal as your main control center for money going out. It's a key part of Business Central, you know, Microsoft's big ERP system for growing companies.
And not just for vendors.
Nope. Any outgoing cash, vendor payments, sure, but also employee expenses, tax payments, you name it. It's where you record all those transactions.
Okay.
And the idea of needing a clear way to link payments to what they're for, that's universal. You see it in SAP, Oracle, any modern system. But in BC, the payment journal is your starting point for payments. It's like your digital checkbook, but way smarter.
Got it. Smarter checkbook. So we open the payment journal. What are those first, like, foundational steps to get this partial payment going correctly?
Okay, so the initial steps are pretty simple, really. They set the stage. First, yeah, you navigate to the payment journal.
Okay.
Then you start a new line. On that line, you need to pick the right vendor, obviously. Make sure you've got the correct account.
Makes sense.
And then this is key. You enter the actual payment amount you're applying. So back to our example. Invoice was $1,000, but maybe you're only applying $800 because of bank fees or whatever. You enter $800 here.
Not the original invoice amount.
No, the actual amount being applied in this transaction, that's critical. It documents the exact cash movement you're recording right now.
All right. So we've got the vendor. We've got the $800 partial amount in the journal line. But how does the system know that this $800 is for that specific $1,000 invoice?
It still feels a bit disconnected.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. That's the crucial bit. And this is where the system's intelligence needs to be activated.
Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, just putting in the vendor and the amount, that's necessary, but it's not enough. It's just data entry at that point.
Right.
Without a clear link, that $800 payment is just floating. It's not tied to the liability it's supposed to reduce. Business Central, like any good ERP, needs explicit instructions.
So the system's basically asking, okay, $800 for vendor X, but for which of their maybe several open invoices does this apply?
Precisely. Which raises that important question. How do we tell it?
And this, I'm guessing, is where that special function, our source highlights, comes in. The thing that makes it work smoothly.
You got it. This is where BC really helps and where you use its power correctly. The key function, the absolute linchpin for handling partial payments accurately, is called apply entries.
Apply entries. Okay.
And here's the important part.
Yeah.
You do this before you post the payment journal line, not after.
Ah, okay. So it's part of setting up the payment line itself.
Exactly. You actively use this function, you click it, and it shows you the open invoices for that vendor. And you specifically select the invoice or invoices, potentially, that this payment relates to.
So you're manually selecting the $1,000 invoice in our example.
Yes. You're telling Business Central very clearly, hey, this $800, it goes against this specific, the $1,000 invoice. Nowhere else. It's like digitally stapling the payment advice to the bill.
That makes perfect sense. It's the connection step. So apply entries basically tells BC where to connect the dots. What actually happens then, like under the hood, when I use apply entries and then I hit post, what do my financial records look like immediately after?
Okay, so the beauty of apply entries is how elegantly it solves this. It's not just, randomly reducing a balance. Its real power is establishing that definite, traceable link between the payment and the invoice.
Right, the audit trail again.
Exactly. Without using apply entries, BC just wouldn't know. It wouldn't have that specific instruction. Which invoice should it reduce? You'd end up with unapplied payments, confused vendor statements, reconciliation nightmares.
We want to avoid those.
We definitely do. So once you've used apply entries, you've linked your $800 payment line to that $1,000 invoice, and then you post the journal. Business Central does something really smart and helpful.
Okay, what's that?
Our source is clear on this. It automatically creates a new unpaid balance for the remaining amount on that original invoice.
Okay, so in our example.
Right, the $1,000 invoice doesn't just disappear. It doesn't get marked as fully paid, obviously. Instead, the system updates it. The original invoice now correctly shows as partially paid.
And it shows the remainder.
Yes. There's now a clear, distinct, outstanding balance of $200 still attached to that original invoice reference.
That's brilliant. So you don't lose the history, and the remaining amount is obvious.
Precisely. It avoids that huge error of marking the whole thing paid, and it avoids creating confusing discrepancies that mess up your whole AP ledger. It keeps the record totally transparent and accurate, ready for when you pay that final $200.
That seems like such a clean way to handle it, that intelligent linking, as you called it.
It is. And it's not just a nice feature in BC, it's really fundamental to good financial control. You get that clear, unchangeable record. That's gold for your internal checks, but also for auditors or anyone else looking at your books. Builds trust.
Okay, that's a really clear distinction. It's not about making things vanish. It's about accurately reflecting the new reality that the invoice is partially paid with the specific amount remaining. So let's quickly recap that journey for everyone listening. You spot that partial payment situation, maybe bank fees, maybe a planned short payment. You go to the payment journal, you enter the vendor, and critically, the actual partial amount being applied.
That's right.
Then, the P step, use the apply entries function before posting. You specifically select the invoice this payment is for.
The crucial link.
Yeah. And after you post, the system smartly updates that original invoice, leaving it partially paid with a clear remaining unpaid balance.
Perfectly summarized.
And the benefit for you, the listener, it's huge, really. Following these steps means you always have that clear view of what you actually still owe vendors. It stops small errors becoming big reconciliation headaches later. It improves your financial control. And honestly, it just saves you time and frustration.
Absolutely.
It turns something potentially confusing into a standard, manageable process. Your data stays reliable.
And it's worth adding, we use a simple example, one payment, one invoice. But apply entries is more flexible than that.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, what if you make one payment, maybe $1,500, that's meant to cover, say, $500 off invoice A, $700 off invoice B, and $300 off invoice C?
Applying one payment across multiple invoices.
Exactly. Or dealing with different currencies where exchange rates make the applied amount tricky. Apply entries lets you handle those complex allocations too. You can specify exactly how much of the payment goes to each specific invoice line.
So it gives you that really granular control, even in more complicated scenarios.
That's the idea. Meticulous documentation and reconciliation, no matter how tangled the payment situation might seem at first.
Okay, that's really good to know. It's a powerful little function then.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway is this. Knowing how to use that apply entries function correctly in Business Central when you have partial vendor payments. It's a small detail, maybe, but it has a massive impact. It's the difference between smooth, accurate financials and, well, an accounting headache waiting to happen. Hopefully, our chat today cut through some confusion and gave you that specific, actionable insight.
Agreed. It tackles a very real, very common challenge.
It really does. It affects the bottom line, vendor relationships, everything.
And, thinking about this whole process, it does raise a bit of a broader question, doesn't it?
What's that?
Well, when we consider all the ways payments can end up differing from the original invoice amount of, bank fees, discounts we talked about, maybe credit memos, returns, all sorts of things.
Yeah, there are a lot of scenarios.
Right. So it makes you wonder what other maybe slightly hidden or underused functions are lurking in our financial systems. Functions like apply entries that are actually crucial for keeping everything completely accurate and transparent.
That's interesting. Like hidden gems within the software.
Kind of. It just reminds us how sometimes seemingly small bits of procedural knowledge can make a huge difference when you're dealing with complex systems like ERPs. It encourages us maybe to look beyond the everyday buttons and really explore the full capability of the tools we have. What else is waiting for a deep dive?